Okay, so the camera cooled down. It gets hot, even just one little video. And we were talking about the evolution of how I've pest problem reduced my garden. I'm not gonna say it's pest proof by any means, because you have seen that I'm still struggling with them. But there are areas where the design here is going to inform what we're talking about. So all of these small enclosures have rabbit fencing, which is getting on to be in the 12 to 14-year-old range, because as soon as I started having good solid growth, I immediately started to notice that the creatures were coming and eating my food. So obviously before I had fruit trees growing, I had all annuals and with clear fresh ground that didn't have any amount of weeds or anything, because I had just pulled off, I think I may have been covering the microphone, sorry. I had just pulled off that black tarp that worked. I was just tilling it a little bit. My uncle actually lent me his rototiller. I no longer believe in rototilling and don't till hardly at all. I have a spading fork and I use that even sparingly. It is primarily used for digging up plants I want to move and for facilitating moving wood chips. But that, at the time, I had this whole swath rototilled. And then this section was later, and I think, I don't know if my asparagus is 10 or 12 years old, but that was around the time that I started expanding this way. And the same uncle that lent me his rototiller is a mountain man, and he has just given me so many things, and they're all so random. A lot of horse manure, dirty old coolers. He offered me 7, I took 3. He does junking, and he does cleaning out people's houses, and that was in addition to working in a still mill, because hi, we're in Pittsburgh. Yeah, so Uncle Rob is still with me, and he's a great guy. He's way out northeast, another hour and a half, so not like forever away, but a ways away, right? So he lent me the rototiller, and that's when I started trying to grow things, largely from seed planted in ground, and largely from I did a lot of purchasing plants from 380 auction at the time. I haven't been carless until the more recent 5 years. So I only had a 6-month carless stint in the early years. I was kind of fear-mongered out of going without a car. Honestly, I listened to people's panic, which is my choice to listen. And people panicked about the idea of me not having a car. And it's 5 years in. Yes, I'm annoyed. But honestly, with as long as this bike repair is taking, I'm just going to feel so free from having a bicycle. Still not sure if I'm going for a car again, but I'm not going for a car before the pandemic's over, because the whole world is just designed for me not having a car right now. Long as I have that electric bicycle that I can get to the doctor's, because that's been a pain. So I had all of this in annuals. Red cabbages, squash. I did squash throughout the whole front yard the one year. Back here, there were tomatoes. None of these were here. This haul was just a blank space. And the hedges were a lot shorter because I had a different neighbor, and that neighbor was kind enough to even come and trim my side. Now my side's a lot better kept than theirs because they don't know what they're doing, but it's fine. We figure it out as we go. I might shorten it up a little because it doesn't need to be quite that tall. Anyhow, so I got these fences installed, But I had done a lot of research, and I feel like that is going to be useful for you to know. The rabbit fencing was highly recommended, and you can see that as I reach over the edges and weed, this fence has curled over and gotten a lot shorter. And that's fine. It doesn't impact. The idea is that you enclose an area before you put food in it. And you make sure that it's a really good enclosure so that they won't get the idea that they can get in. So an animal will not try very hard to get into an area that is small and enclosed well, because they don't know that there's food in there. They're honestly, groundhogs are pretty stupid. They're ravenous beasts and they eat like crazy, but they're pretty stupid. And it's about the same with the deer. So I have not shut away the deer. The path for the deer is they come in through the gate of the neighbor. They hop over or step over this low fence that only comes up to my knee. They go up along here. I'll tell you, I only trim this a couple days out of an entire year. Or they go down along here. I don't do anything to keep this clear. And then they either come down here or they stay on their higher path and come along here. At which point they've made it to the cliff and they don't feel like they have to bust into anything because their usual route is unobstructed. And I'm gonna turn. Even though that's an apple and a pear, and in the past, before the hedge was such a monstrosity, the pear also produced. Now only the apple does. And I want to move it, but they wouldn't barely. I've never even lost an apple to a deer, which is amazing when you think about it. And these enclosures are, 12, 14, 15 years in. 12 to 14 years in. And I had problems with chipmunks, and that's why there's bricks lined up along the bottom, as they were starting to get gaps dug underneath them. But again, once you have an area enclosed, they, as long as it's not the entire area trying to be enclosed, because then they get really curious and they feel like they're losing ground. But if you let them have the ground and enclose it smallly and securely, they won't try again. So this is just breaking up their patterns, leaving what they want established, and excluding them from certain areas. And that is how I manage groundhog exclusion and rabbit exclusion from my primary food plots. We can talk about other things soon. Thanks. Bye.